Today I'll be sharing a few tips and insights when it comes to getting an optimal reverb sound in your projects. Before diving into our example, and because I'm not aware of your background, I wanted to go over two small concepts. First, the process of using sends and returns rather than inserts for some effects, especially spatio-temporal effects such as reverb, delay, chorus, etc. That allows more control over the dry and wet signals separately. Additionally, it's very useful to add some extra processing before and or after your reverb or other effects for multiple reasons. That's what we will demonstrate today. So with that in mind, let me introduce our context. We have two elements in this project, for example, today that I will use. So we have the kick here playing through the track, and the pattern changes at one point, and we can experiment adding some reverb on a kick with this one. As well as this little TD303 line, so a little acid line, but actually not with that much resonance, as you can hear. But it's pretty dry, you know, and we want to add a bit of smoothness, a little tail to it, etc. Same thing for the kick, and that at the same time that allows to blend those two elements together in the same space, because we are going to send them in the same reverb. Today we'll be using a little plate from Sun Toys that you can grab for free actually until December 1st on their website using the link in description. It's a very nice reverb, super easy and intuitive to use thanks to its minimal controls, but that's the thing. It's easy and intuitive to use, but you get less settings, less options to customize and to further shape and tailor your sounds based on your needs and your context. So that's why it's going to be very helpful in some cases to add an EQ before or eventually after, as we'll be demonstrating in a second. So before we dive into the actual practical example, two main aspects that comes to processing when it comes to processing your spatio-temporal effects returns channel. First, the process of cleaning the effect input. For example, if you are sending a kick or a bass into a reverb, you might want to cut the deep low end to avoid some messy rumble, to avoid losing definition and tightness in your low end. And if you're sending, for example, a voice into a reverb, you might want to tame the sibilance frequencies to avoid any harsh high frequency bursts in your reverb signal or things like that, you know. And the second aspect would be to shape the effect output. So instead of just wanting to clean it, you want to actually bring it somewhere else, creatively speaking, or to better support something and your artistic intention. So basically you can of course use some EQ to shape the tonality, or even a mid-side EQ, or some width processor to shape the panoramic of the signal, or even use a compressor in parallel, or even some harmonic saturation that would allow you to make your signal sound fatter and richer at the same time. So those can be great techniques to use, and we'll demonstrate them today. So let's dive right into it. Here you can hear, for example, let's begin with the kick, shall we? The kick without any reverb at all. Right? So let's add just the reverb without any EQ. And you can hear, of course it's long, but you can hear it's making quite some rumble. And even there we have the low cut enabled, because you do have a low cut. So in that case, you don't necessarily need to have an EQ, but still you can go further using an EQ instead of just this low cut that has a fixed slope and all that stuff, you know. So let's check our EQ here. Just enable it. I would enable the low cut here. And already you can hear that the reverb was lighter. And without any reverb. And then of course we might want to turn down the decay rate a bit, just to have it more natural. Of course, it all depends on what you want to do, for sure. And then you could see I had another band here, just bypassed. It's actually a band applied only on the side signals with the dynamic EQ function of FabFilter Pro Q3. And it allows me to basically spread the reverb signal of the kick only on the sides and gradually over the frequencies, as you can see. So that's a great way to add a bit of movement into your signal as well, and can be very handy. On the other hand, let's say that we want a richer sound, or we want to further adjust it, just to have some mids, an emphasis on the mids or something like that. We can definitely do that. And you can, of course, customize further your posting based on what you want here. Let's leave it raw like that and experiment with some harmonic saturation. For example, I'll use Saturation 2 from FabFilter as well. And let's say, for example, we could try the warm tape. It's the default mode. You also have a compressor basically integrated inside, as well as an EQ. And that's without. And with. And of course it's very extreme right now. That's because we are 100% wet. And let's turn it down. Even then, still pretty obvious. And you can hear how the reverb is just a bit brighter, fuller, right? And that helps a lot within the mix to get your elements just to fit exactly like you want them to fit, basically. Let's focus now on the little acid line. So without the reverb, again, it sounds like that. And let's just enable the reverb alone for now. Which of course I pushed a bit much just to show you very obviously in that example how it will affect the sound, but feel free to always reduce a tiny bit your reverb. When you feel it's right, remove some a tiny bit and you will be definitely right, especially if you are working on some headphones. As the perception of reverb is very different on headphones than on speakers, but that will be the topic for another time. And again, you might want to come and to adjust different things. Here it would be more this range here, in the 2K, 2K5, that can get pretty harsh, pretty fast. At the same time, we can use this bend to brighten it on the other side. You can see it was very extreme just to raise it because the signal was pretty low. Now we can dial it back down a lot because this one is louder. And actually we don't even want necessarily the dynamic mode here since it's really fast, so we can just open it like that. And we could decide that this dynamic bend here would be applied only on the mid if we feel it's only in the mono signal that the harshness is really present. And then again, of course, you can come back after, add some additional processing, whatever you might need. Let's say we want to make it a bit more warm and muffled in some cases. Just double click on the right to create a high cut. And then again, we can come back with the saturation, parallel saturation. And let's switch the mode for this one, something a bit more subtle. Using those techniques, you can obtain a better sounding reverb in most cases and achieve more with less. Although it appears that you are using a lot of effects, you can see that we are only taking minimal actions with each one and getting the best of each rather than over pushing something into one effect, which most of the time yields best results for me. That being said, there is no right or wrong way to do stuff. Just different techniques that will bring you in different places, so feel free to experiment and see what works best for you. To conclude, don't hesitate to join our Discord if you have any questions or just would like to meet other people sharing the same passion. You can also share your projects and get some critical and detailed feedback there. Thank you for watching and see you next time.